Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and start. I'm not sure what's happened to Paul Harvey, but if he arrives, then he can join us when he does. Are we online now? Right. Okay, first of all, I'd like to welcome you all to this event, which is a launch of the new Humanitarian Exchange 54, which is on new learning in cash transfer programming. My name is Wendy Fenton, and I'm the Humanitarian Practice Network coordinator here at ODI. We're going to vary our format a bit today. Usually we would have a series of presentations and then have a discussant who comments on those and ask you to then offer your questions and comments. Today, we're taking a different approach. We've got a series of questions that we want to ask, a wide range of panelists who I'm going to introduce in a moment. And they're going to discuss some of these issues on cash. I suspect that most of you are cash practitioners or have some experience of that, and so you'll know what many of these issues are already, and hopefully you've had a chance to look at the HE54. But I think this will give us an interesting opportunity to explore some of the key issues in more depth. First of all, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping, and after I do that, Haley Bocock on my far left here, who is the interim CALP communications and advocacy person, is going to give us a sort of overview before we begin the actual question and discussion session. So first of all, let me tell you that the loos are through this hallway, ladies this way, gents that way. If you hear a fire bell, continuous ringing I think it is, then you should make your way out through the doors, through ODI's reception and downstairs and outside. Okay, don't use the elevator. And make sure you have your mobile phones turned off, please. And I think that is probably it. We're streaming this online, so we have about 100 people signed up watching online, which is wonderful, and we have 60 people who have signed up to attend today, so we may get a few latecomers to fill up this first row. Let me just introduce all of our speakers before we get started, because we're very lucky to have in Nairobi today 4 panelists. And so we really appreciate them joining us all the way from Nairobi. And we're very grateful to Oxfam for providing the video conference facilities. So let me start with our Nairobi participants. We've got on, looking at the screen on the far right, is Brianna Ridsdell. And she's an independent humanitarian communications consultant. She's a co-editor, together with Sarah Bailey from HPG, of this issue of the Humanitarian Exchange. And Brianna also wrote the lead article on what the humanitarian community needs to do to achieve scale in emergency cash transfer programs. Brianna was previously, as I said, the communications and advocacy officer at CALP. And before that, she's worked for a wide range of NGOs and UN agencies. So she's got a very good grasp of a broad range of issues in relation to cash. Then we have, next to Brianna, we have Glenn Hewson, who is the CALP coordinator in the region. And we're very happy that Glenn could join us. Glenn, you're based, is it at NRC?
I'm based at the Norwegian Refugee Council.
Right, okay, you're based at NRC. And then next to Glenn, we have Dagan Ally, and she's the executive director of ADESO, which is formerly Horn Relief, and an author of an article in this issue which discusses the impact of risk aversion on the use of cash in the 2011 Somalia famine. Dagan also is a co-author of one of our network papers that she wrote a few years ago on cash. I think it was in 2005. So she's has a very long experience of working in cash and actually piloting approaches in Somalia and the Horn. She's got over 10 years of experience managing development and humanitarian programs, and has also developed considerable expertise in developing and implementing, as I said, cash-based interventions in difficult and insecure environments. And then finally, next to Dagan is Calum MacLean, who is a food assistance, food security technical advisor at ECHO's regional office in Nairobi. And he's very kindly taken the place of Sarah McCarty, who was one of our article authors. Calum has, had a very long experience of working in both the region and in cash. He's worked for a wide range of INGO, donor, and UN organizations. He's got over 20 years of experience in Africa, mostly working on food security and nutrition issues. And he first worked on cash transfers and emergencies in 1994. So it's not that new, is it, Cash? He's also the co-author of Network Paper 44 on livelihoods and protection, displacement in vulnerable communities in Kismayo, southern Somalia. And that was published in 2003 by the Humanitarian Practice Network. So these are our panelists in Nairobi. Now, in London, unfortunately, Paul Harvey seems to have been detained. If he does arrive, then he'll join us on the panel. And I think many of you know him. He was a research associate with HPG and a partner with Humanitarian Outcomes. And Paul's done, he's also the co-author of our Good Practice Review on cash transfer programming in emergencies. That was published last year about this time by HPN and CALP in partnership. But he's one of the original sort of researchers into these issues, and he really drove a lot of this research in the early and mid-2000s, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with his publications and his research. And then on my left, we have Tim Waits, who is a livelihoods advisor in DFID's Conflict, Humanitarian, and Security Department. And Tim has a background in food security and addressing risk and vulnerability of the poorest populations in low-income countries. And Tim's worked on food policy, social protection policy, developing safety net mechanisms in fragile contexts, cash and food transfers, and linking humanitarian disaster risk reduction and CCA in addressing natural disasters. And then finally, as I mentioned before, we have Haley Bocock. And as I said, she's the interim advocacy officer at CALP. And Haley's going to start now by giving us a bit of an overview.